What's up, everybody? Stacking Surfer here. Glad that you are here with me today. I have a great guest for us that we're going to have on in just a second here. So first off, thank you for coming to the show today. We've got a great show. So a couple things I just wanted to hit with you guys real quick is number one, I want to thank everybody here for all the support in getting to 10,000 subscribers. That's a big, huge thing for the channel. And we are going to be having an awesome 10,000 subscriber party coming up I think we're going to do that in December. Still working on a date, but we'll find a fun date towards the beginning of December where we can do a whole bunch of gauze, hopefully meet a lot of people from the community and have a bunch of people back on the show that have been here as guests. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So anyway, as we're getting started, I just want to do a quick reminder for you guys. Every time we get to a new 100 thumbs up, we're going to do a giveaway of gold backs today. So you guys have a chance to win some gold backs. And I anticipate this is going to be a really good show. We are going to be talking about silver and gold. We'll hit a little bit about Bitcoin, what's going on in the market. And we're also going to be talking about how to become your own bank. So as we get started here, I'm going to bring Andy on right now. And we're going to go ahead and ask Andy a few questions here. So first off, Andy, thank you for coming. For those of you that don't know Andy Schectman, he is the CEO of Miles Franklin, and his company is a great place to pick up precious metals from. I've had the pleasure of doing that myself, and his company has only treated us really well. So we'll talk a little bit about Andy's company in the middle of the show today as well. But Andy, how are you? How are things going in the market today? Are you getting phone calls from people? Are people having any concerns about the price action recently, or is it really not that bad for most people?
Well, I think it's not that bad. I'm sure there are people that are concerned and bummed out by it. It's better than the alternative. I think that this administration will be much better for the country, but it will ultimately be very good for gold too. Look, when Trump won in 2016, gold sold off hard for a few weeks until mid-December. But following that, there was a huge gold rally through much of 2017. You have a situation where there's been massive short positions by the commercial banks across the board in gold and silver that have been literally bleeding them dry for the better part of the last year. And this was an opportunity on the Trump euphoria to push the price down a little bit to get the algorithms to start selling, which then triggered a pretty large sell-off. And what you're seeing is the managed money that was very long has sold a large portion of that position, which means the commercial banks go the opposite direction. Not only are they covering their shorts, they're taking the longs on the other end. This is to be expected. I was wondering how these banks would ever get out of these short positions, and I think this is an opportunity for them to do that. But in terms of, where this is ultimately going, I think nothing has changed at all. In fact, look, Trump is a proponent of very low interest rates. I mean, he'd like negative interest rates if he could. During his last tenure, he was calling the Fed boneheads for not implementing zero or even negative interest rates. And so when you talk about a situation of lower interest rates and a weaker dollar, that's bad for the purchasing power of the currency. Certainly that's good for the banks, that's good for Wall Street, but it's also very, very, very inflationary and ultimately leads to the same place. In fact, I think that it might even accelerate the inflationary effect that will start to weigh on the dollar's value soon. And what happens is that lately, as the front end of the market, the bond market, the yield, the rates have been pushed down, the back end's going up commensurate, if not more. In fact, they've lowered the front end by 75 basis points, and the back end is up over 80 basis points over that same period of time. In other words, a 10-year treasury, which is the most important treasury. It's the one that is tied to the mortgages, it's tied to the credit cards, to the auto loans, it's tied to leases, commercial leases in terms of real estate. So yeah, I think that this was to be expected. and it shouldn't shock people. And to see it move in the direction that it is going, when you see the stock market and cryptocurrencies taking off the way that they have, again, it's only exacerbating this correction, which is really something that the big commercial banks, I think, are welcoming. Now, at the same time, where this becomes kind of dicey is that you have half of the world looking at these depressed prices as an opportunity to load up on gold and silver at subsidized prices, that being the central banks and the BRICS nations. So yeah, this is the market exhaling and irrational exuberance, if you will, because while this will be good for the country on many levels, it doesn't change the fact that even if you had a guy like Elon Musk come in and trim all the fat, all of it, and we get into a much more streamlined situation with the government, the Congressional Budget Office, which is a nonpartisan group out of Washington, maybe the last nonpartisan group, has come out and said that by 2031, in just 4 years, 100% of tax revenue goes just to pay the interest on the debt and the mandatory entitlements like Social Security and Medicare. And how do you retain your status as the supreme authority in the world, if you will, in terms of militarily and in terms of financially, when you're borrowing things like military spending, which is discretional? Everything that is discretional would need to be borrowed. Everything other than the mandatory payments for maintaining the interest on the debt and the entitlements like Social Security and Medicare. So it's a situation that we've gotten so far down the rabbit hole. We are so indebted by reigniting the inflation engine, by dropping rates. Again, we're not learning from our mistakes, and we're just papering over the same problem. So I'm very optimistic, at least in terms of what it means for the country to go back to some form of sanity from a standpoint of culturally. But in terms of financially, no, I think that gold and silver will ultimately, as this debt burden, let me shut that off because that's kind of distracting in the background. As that debt burden gets worse and worse and worse, and we see this debt bubble pop, which I think it will. I mean, you look at the bank in Lindsay, Oklahoma, which I think was a test case that failed, and all of the uninsured deposits were bailed in. No one's talking about this. Where the hell is the media talking about this? It's crazy how it's gotten no attention, and yet all they had in little podunk flyover country, Oklahoma, was 7 million in uninsured assets, not the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions that Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank had with Hollywood money like Oprah and tech startup companies and whatnot that were bailed out. And now you see a bank bailed in where 3.5 of the 7 million in the uninsured deposits are gone. They're not going to give it to them. I mean, it's gone. And it's like a trial balloon. And yet you would think this would be front and center on every news channel, on every newspaper. It's just not even being spoken about, which is very interesting. But the problems in the banks, and I did an interview with Gregory Mannarino today, and we both have been saying over the same period of time, I didn't know that he's been saying this, but we kind of swap notes on this, that Bank of America could be the sacrificial lamb to create the panic, to usher us towards this new system, which ultimately is coming. But look, I want people to know I'm very glad Trump won, but you think about some of the things missing from his rhetoric. Why has he not talked at all about monetary policy at all? Yep. The whole way up? Why has he not talked about the Fed? Why has he not talked at all really about the debt? This is a problem. And in other words, his policies will be really good for the 1% and 2%, the upper crust. And you can see that already with the banks and the brokerages and the Bitcoin whales and the stock bulls. I mean, they're all very thankful that he is here. And what that really does is eviscerates the middle class because inflation roars. And so you end up with the wealthy who have the assets getting wealthier as their assets go higher, and the poor having a harder time making ends meet as price inflation becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. At the same time, we're seeing the back end of the yield curve go higher. So you're seeing a steepening But what you're seeing is I think, a replacement, if you will, for treasuries with things like gold, because what Trump is doing is not going to fix that problem. He's talking more about sanctions. He's talking more about tariffs. And, tariffs can be good if you were to eliminate the income tax. I'm all for it. But when you talk about tariffs, it's usually used to spur economic manufacturing. We don't have any economic manufacturing anymore. We have no manufacturing anymore. So we're trying to protect what doesn't exist. All that does is add a tax on the people in the United States. It would take years to bring that manufacturing back home, to build the facilities, to modernize the facilities, to train people. We're a ways away from that. Look, I would love nothing more than to close the borders, to build up our infrastructure, bring all of our military home, close all the military bases, become very protectionist, and screw the rest of the world in terms of being the policemen of the world. In terms of this globalized community, I think we'd be a whole lot better off going back to our roots. Now, is that going to happen? No, it's not. But what I do think is that the Federal Reserve is still in charge. And even though Trump is saying and doing many of the right things, he's not offering to put gold and silver, or you don't hear him talking about it, into the strategic reserve. You hear him talking about Bitcoin, and that's because gold, unless they valued it way higher, would in essence render the Federal Reserve with far less power. So there are a lot of things that I see happening that make me believe he's still part of the establishment, albeit a much better selection than the other. But I don't expect to see things change materially for the value of the dollar. Yes, I'm hoping that the country goes back to some form of sanity where we can reinstall confidence in the FBI, the judicial system, the electoral system, the borders, or immigration. I like what he's doing, talking about with education. I like many of the people he's putting back in, but here again, to expect this to be a massive change. I mean, think about psychology for a moment, you guys. And you think about psychology, there's a whole form of investing called Elliott wave, Kondratiev wave. It's wave theory. It's based on human emotions, and it drives the markets. Think of what we've all been through for the last 4 years, from a pandemic to absolute absurdity in terms of everything that this culture is. If you are my age or older, I'm 54, grew up in the 70s. I mean, you knew who a girl was, you knew who a boy was. I mean, my parents were hippies. I didn't care what you did, what kind of drugs you did, who you slept with. I didn't care. I was a jock. I did my thing. I hung out with these people. It didn't mean I had to bend over to the way that they wanted to live, but I was okay with it as long as it didn't infringe on me. And I think it was a better time. I held a door for a lady. I said, yes, sir, to a police officer, and yes, ma'am, to my teacher, to the principal, or whatever it may be. It was a better time, in my opinion, to be an American. You weren't scared letting your kids go to a ball game in the city in Minneapolis. And when I was out of college, I had an apartment in downtown Minneapolis. That during the pandemic, that city became like Escape from New York. I mean, it really did. And burning and looting and destroying the city I was so proud of. That's why I voted with my feet and moved to Florida. They told us Antifa's coming out to the suburbs, and shelter in place. Don't open your doors. The police aren't coming. I was sleeping with an AR-15 on my nightstand, doing all the podcasts I was doing, and people thinking my house was full of gold. I'd say to my wife every night before I go to bed, now, if the window breaks, here's what we do. Now, as crazy as that sounds, it wasn't crazy to me, and it was my normal. And when you think about all of the absurdities we've seen, starting with censorship and cancel culture and being defined not by your merit and how hard you busted your ass, I'll say it again. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about this, I come from nothing. My dad's middle name is Miles, and his best friend who lent us the money to start this company in a one-room office the size of a closet before the internet, middle name was Franklin. We were middle class at best, at very best. And I didn't live over the top. And I had a paper route when I was 13 years old, and I bagged groceries. I had a job my whole life. No one gave me anything. And I thank God every day for the opportunities this country afforded me. And it bummed me out to no end to see the shit that happened over the last 4 years, let alone the pandemic. And we lived in bizarro world. So I think when you take a step back from that and you see a change, someone who's saying, I'm going to address all this shit once and for all, there is a exuberance, whether it's irrational or not can be debated, but there is an exuberance that, oh, thank God, maybe we're going back to, what this country was founded on. And I'm not trying to sound ideological or idealistic. I'm just simply saying that I think the things that this country was founded on is what made every little boy and girl who grew up around the world envy this country and want to come here and listen to rock and roll music and wear Levi's jeans and have the opportunity and the freedom that this country stood for. The last several years, I wondered if we'd ever see that again. Now, to me, that's what I hope we see change. But from a standpoint of the price of gold and silver, or the massive, massive, massive debt problem that we have that's only getting bigger now and will exacerbate with lower interest rates. At the same time, the BRICS and all of the things that we've talked about before, that's not stopping, not at all. In fact, I think many of them feel this is their chance to actually accelerate it, because it has nothing to do with the president. It has everything to do with the policies that Trump wants to put into place will only incentivize these countries to work together more. And tariffs across the board is a prime example. And of course, what we saw happen a few weeks ago with the Bank of International Settlements and what they did to Project Enbridge, these countries don't trust the West anymore. And I don't think they look at President Trump as the savior to the system where the dollar will be the king and the world reserve currency forever. In fact, quite to the contrary. I don't think it changes anything. So yes, this is a bummer for people who are, emotional about this, but it's logical. I would have expected this with the commercial banks to do all they could first opportunity to cover, and they have, and they knocked it down a lot. And now you're seeing the commercial banks go long. Every time you see that, the price goes right back up. So hold tight. We may not be out of the woods yet, but we're close. I don't expect this to be a sustained drubbing, just a correction that's probably arguably overdue.
Thank you for that, Andy. So I look at everything you just said, and a couple things I remember as a kid. I remember growing up being pretty proud to be an American, and it wasn't in the in the bad sense of pride of I was better than other people, but that I felt like I was living in a place that was good, and a place that I was happy to be born in America. And I've seen that sentiment change drastically over the last 10 years to the point where people hate America, and America was founded on bad principles and all this other stuff, like a whole completely different narrative. And I think what's happened in the country, whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, the voting it was a wave, a red wave that came across the country here. So there's definitely a lot of people in the country that feel like a change needed to be done. And a lot of that, I think, is in the social area, in kind of men and women's sports, a lot of these different things that are controversial out there. I think a lot of people are having a hard time with it. When you get to the point of looking at the monetary policy and everything else, we're still waiting to hear who he may pick for his Treasury Secretary. And there's a few different people that are up that have different philosophies on things. We've heard a lot of comments around Department of Government Efficiency with Elon Musk, which is spelled out Doge, and we've seen Dogecoin explode. We've also seen a lot of comments around a strategic reserve around Bitcoin. But to your point, we haven't heard anything around or a mention around silver or gold being admitted to that. And so, one of the things I did want to ask you about a little bit here too is when you're looking at what the BRICS could potentially do, when you're looking at the bond market and the problems we have there, and you're looking at the banks that are out there, and a lot of them have bond problems, a lot of them have mortgage-backed security problems right now too. One of the things I wanted to hit a little bit about today is if you've got any suggestions on how we might become our own bank to a degree. How do we try to secure ourselves a little bit more here? Is it advisable to have money in the market? Is it advisable to, to bring gold and silver into your house and to store it properly? What are the things that you're advising some of your friends and family around situations like now? How would you help someone be able to take control of themselves, their wealth a little bit more? In that term, be your own bank. What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of being analytical and putting my own feelings aside, I think, Trump is certainly pushing the cryptocurrency narrative, and he says cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin. So having some cryptocurrencies, I think, is something that is not a bad idea. I think that when you take a look at like places that could do well, you talk about the stock market. What would do well? Well, you could talk about natural gas as an example, because the need for AI, the need for, if we continue to expand the AI, he wants us to be the AI center of the world. The energy usage is off the charts. It's almost, for one AI center, it's almost the amount of energy that a whole state uses, is what they're saying. It's tremendous amounts of energy needed to run these things. So, nuclear capacity, yeah, we can build new nuclear facilities, but that takes years. And so when you look at the abundance of natural gas that we have underneath our feet, it's a good place to start. I like natural gas. I like oil. I like mining shares as they roll back all of these restrictions on becoming self-sufficient with our own natural resources. I think you could say the bank stocks, the big bank stocks will do very well. These policies are very favorable for the JP Morgans, the Citibanks. I think these are things that certainly, when you talk about the market, if you want to speculate and ride the Trump wave, I don't think it comes without risk, but I do think that it's very obvious that is the direction that he is moving. And at the same time, again, yeah, I try and be as objective as possible in all of this. And I could see a short-term underinvestment, if you will, in precious metals as this fever continues to brew. But ultimately, we are heading into a really big inflationary future, and commodities in general should do very, very well. So I think that, copper stocks, physical precious metals in your own possession, certainly cryptocurrencies in your own possession, to at the same time remove the systemic counterparty risk of the banking system. I keep going back to the Bank of Lindsay, Oklahoma, and I think that was a test run. I think the banks are massively over-leveraged and undercapitalized. We've seen the rates on the 10-year climb, which is hurting the banks even worse. I think you'll see major bank consolidation. So I wouldn't go with anything other than the very biggest banks in terms of those that if I had an appetite for that kind of risk, you could see big returns in Citi and banks like JP and Goldman. But yeah, I mean, being your own bank, look, what incentive do you have to put your money into a banking system that, you're an unsecured general creditor, you're getting nothing in the way of return, and you have a paramount of risk? And all it will take is one big bank, not the little podunk bank of Lindsay, Oklahoma, where half of the uninsured deposits are gone, but maybe a big regional bank, bank of like a U.S. bank or a Truist Bank or PNC, a bank like that. You see a bank like that fail, or God forbid, a Bank of America, as Gregory Manarino and I kind of went back and forth on this morning. That's all it would take. If you woke up this morning and Truist Bank or a big regional bank failed and was bailed in, and people lost tens or hundreds of millions, your wife would say, "Get your ass down to the bank now and go get all our money out now." And that would create a bank run that would very quickly. I mean, this is what they want. They want to consolidate the banks. They want to move to a CBDC. We're moving to a digital currency. Hardly anyone even uses regular cash anymore. I do, but you go to a place to buy a bagel or a cup of coffee at 8 a.m. with $100 bill. They look at you like you're pointing a gun at them. Like, I can't cash this. Are you kidding me? So, cash is kind of on the way out. I think that this is all to be expected. We will see bank consolidations. And so you're last to be paid as an unsecured general creditor. You're taking on tremendous risk with a system that is backed by the FDIC that has about 140 billion in assets backing 18 trillion in deposits. Is it worth it? So being your own bank, in my opinion, is not as crazy as it sounds. I think that this is the time to do things like that. Unconventional times certainly call for unconventional actions. If I were going to be in any bank that wasn't, I'd stay out of the regional banks. I mean, a credit union is probably better than the large commercial banks. They are not as risky as the big banks are, but they're not immune to all the problems either. So, yeah, leaving enough in the bank to pay your monthly expenses and whatnot, sure, but any other cash, I think you'd do a whole lot better riding the Trump wave, if you will, the Trump train, or being your own bank and removing counterparty risk that I just have a hard time believing won't rear its head probably very soon. My biggest fear of all of this is it's kind of like a psyop, like a setup, and they want to blow up the system and blame things like, free market capitalism and Trump, of course, and all of his policies for blowing everything up. And, I don't think people understand just how screwed up the books really are, and the lying that we get out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics on unemployment and on inflation and just how bad it truly is. Most people have no idea, but if you were, like, for example, the liquidity in the system, the BTFP, the Bank Term Funding Program, expired just a couple of days ago. The reverse repo market is down to almost zero. The velocity in money is very slow right now, and the liquidity is bad. And so when you talk about banks in urgent need of liquidity, they have been able to draw upon the reverse overnight repo market. They have been able to go and use things like the discount window or the BTFP. All of these things are down to the lowest levels. BTFP is gone. The overnight lending window is very, very low, and then horrible terms that they don't want to use them. So there's problems in the system, and as rates on the 10-year go higher, that's going to create massive problems as these commercial loans and leases come due this year and next, which then cripple the banks and can just like that, set that daisy chain off in the banking system. So we're not out of the woods, but we should be optimistic. I'm sick and tired of being, Joey Buzzkill. I am. I mean, it gets old, right? But I guess if the foo shit, swear it, right? So you know what I'm saying? I just think that it's foolish to become concerned and panic-stricken about what's happened right now. This is exactly what happened in 2016, and everything turned right back around, and gold started to march much higher. So just stay true to your beliefs and your convictions. We haven't seen anything that's going to change ultimately the fate of the dollar. But there might be some profits on the table in the stock market and in the crypto market. And I don't think there's anything wrong with riding this wave for as long as you can. Just be careful.
I agree, Andy. I think right now is a good time for people to pick up gold and silver if you haven't bought any recently. For those of you that have maybe been buying on the way up, I don't think this is a time to just go and unload everything. I still think that the principles are still there, the risks are still there in the market, and if anything, I think we're having some good opportunities to pick up. In trading in general or buying things, you want to buy low, you want to sell high, but the human condition always tells us to do the opposite, right? The fear comes
That's the human emotion part. That's why there's that whole theory of investing called wave theory. And that's why so few people ever succeed, because they let their emotions drive their decisions rather than logic and mathematics and economics. And it's hard. It's hard to not be emotional, right? I mean, it's scary when you got kids and you're raising a family and shit, I just lost all my money, or I could lose it. What do I do? And am I missing out? You get FOMO, and then people jump in without even knowing why they jumped in, just because they got FOMO. They didn't do their research. Very dangerous. So, but that's how people get wiped out. And you see people jump into the crypto market, maybe because they feel FOMO, they haven't researched it, they didn't figure it out. And that's very dangerous. Crypto is not something that you should just jump into without at least getting some help from someone who's been down that road before, teaching you how to properly handle it, how to properly purchase it, how to properly store it, etc. So there are a lot of pitfalls out there right now, but there are also opportunities. But materially, yeah, the emotions will drive this market in many directions. And I don't believe that we are hoping spring eternal right now. I think that there's a lot of people pushing back against what President-elect Trump is planning on doing, and I'm fearful that they're setting him up to blow up the whole system so that he and everything that this administration stands for will be blamed, and that's my biggest concern of all. Hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, here's the
sure.
thing with it, though. It's quiet. It's really quiet. The people that were opposing Trump were very, very loud leading up to this election. And then once the election happened, all of a sudden it became very, very quiet. And there's a lot of different rumors out there. Some of them are hitting the mainstream media of what may happen. And I don't want to get into all those details right now because nothing's founded yet. But to me, it just seems a little too quiet. It seems like the calm before potentially a big storm coming. The advice I've taken, Andy, from my grandfather was a big banker out here on the West Coast, and he told me one of the things I remember from being a kid was pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and that principle basically goes to with anything in investing, guys. You want to buy, and he also said buy low, sell high. So you want to buy when no one else wants to buy. You want to sell when no one else wants to sell. Those are the times you're going to get in and out. That's if you're making a trade. If you're buying something to hold long term, then you wouldn't do that, but you would accumulate when it's low. I've always looked at gold too as a wealth insurance. So I look at the amount of wealth I have. I've got my own calculation I have personally that I use to make sure I'm in check with that. And I make sure I've got a good solid foundation. And then when I have extra funds and I want to be a little bit riskier, I'll go into things that are more speculative and, start to make some more money from it.
It makes sense.
But before we go on a little bit more, Andy, what I wanted to do real quick is for those people that are looking to buy gold and silver, how can they get in touch with Miles Franklin?
The best way would be to send us an email at info@milesfranklin. Tell them that the Stacking Surfer sent them. Ask any questions that they've heard on this show or that they want to know about precious metals IRAs or economics or anything. We'll answer it. Request our price list that we don't publish. And a lot of people don't like the fact that I don't publish that price list. We have some prices for small quantities, but the price list that we keep close to the vest will be as good or better than anywhere in the country. And so request that. Info@milesfranklin, no obligation. If you want to be contacted, put your phone number down. If you do send in that email, check your spam if you haven't got something back within a day, because sometimes that will go into spam. Coming from a corporation, a lot of times you have filters on email servers that will block it. So we're pretty good about it. Put your phone number down if you want to be contacted. That is the best way to do it, in my opinion. And make sure you put in the subject line that you came from this show, and that'll be very important. But no obligation in reaching out and asking for prices or any questions.
Andy's been great, guys. And the other thing I'll say is hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so. We'll do a gold giveaway at the end here if we get over the 100 mark. And if we go over that, we'll do some.
I hope everyone's gotten the Silver Eagles I sent out, and I'm sorry for the way they were packaged, because it's a pain in the ass, let me tell you, to do it myself. I mean, my shipping department would normally do it, but then I'm not going to just throw. There are the names. I sent them all out myself, and awesome. So I'm sorry for the way they were packaged. But coming from my company, it would be very different. But that's okay. I figured I would do it myself, and it just was my way of saying thank you for having me on your show.
No, it's been great, Andy. We appreciate that. The gold backs are a little bit easier to get out to people. They'll fit in mail a little easier, and they're fairly easy to get out. But the thing that I wanted to do before we get to a couple questions, we've got a lot of questions that are on here too from people. one question that's coming in here, and I think it's one that we've addressed a few times, but it seems to still stick around a little bit, is when people are looking at buying gold and silver and taking the physical metal. There's this term that people will use called coin of the realm. Another way of just talking about it is buying a sovereign coin for your country, something that's minted inside the country. You've got a couple different camps out there. Some people believe you need to buy the cheapest, least expensive silver. They may tend to go for more bars. You've got other people that say you need something that's highly divisible, so they go after the junk and constitutional silver. And then you've got like another camp that says, no, it really needs to be, silver rounds or silver, coins. And when you get into the difference between silver coins and rounds, you can have a $3 to $6 spread between a silver buffalo and say a silver eagle. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, is it really worth buying silver eagles and paying that extra premium?
I'll tell the story. I mean, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I've told it before. Bill Holter is one of my best friends, and he and I have worked together for a long time and been very close friends. And he used to be partners with Jim Sinclair. Jim Sinclair, if you look him up in the 70s, was known in the 80s as Mr. Gold. His family and his lineage runs very deep in it. And I was at dinner with him one night. Now, before I finish the story, I want you to know that I still have a lot of coins that are not American made. Most of what I own is, but anyways, so I go to dinner with him and Bill 5-6 years ago. He passed away a year or two ago at his home in Connecticut. We had dinner and we're talking and we're having drinks and he gets a little buzzed. And he looks at me and he says, Andy, I'm Jewish. And I said, actually, I didn't, Jim. Why are you telling me this? And by the way, Sinclair doesn't sound like a Jewish name. He says, you're right. It's not. He says, I went to a Catholic elementary school and got picked on for being the one Jewish kid. And so when I went to middle school in another city, I took my mom's maiden name of Sinclair. He says, but my last name is Seligman. And my father, Murray Seligman, if you read about him, if you Google Murray Seligman, Murray was a very famous commodity trader. He'll pop right up on Google. And he helped unwind the Hunt brothers position. So I'm like, okay, Jim, but why are you telling me all this? And he says, you ever notice I only buy American coins from you? I said, actually, I did. I was actually wondering that because the premiums at the time were much higher. He says, yeah, well, here's why. Now, I can say this because Bill Holter has told this story a few times or more on podcasts, so I feel comfortable saying it. He said, I'm related to the Goldmans and Goldman Sachs. He said, I was told by a family member that there would be 2 resets. A man-made one would start. And I would argue, actually, that we are in the midst of that man-made reset right now. I personally believe we are. The very beginning stages of it. He said that would fail, followed by a reset driven by Mother Nature. And when that happens, the U.S. government will confiscate all gold and silver that is not American minted. Now, take that for what it's worth, okay? I mean, you can find Bill will tell the same story if you go watch Bill Holter, but he's all over YouTube. But it was impactful enough to where he believed it completely and totally believed it. And subsequently, I have bought ever since that day. Most of everything I own is American made, albeit I didn't sell and convert the other things that I own. But it had enough of an impact on me. Now, I think when you talk about also 11 states in the country that have already approved gold and silver coins, sovereign coins, as legal tender for all debts, public and private, including your property taxes. Some specifically say American made. 21 or 22 states have this in front of their legislatures right now. Yeah, I think buying American coins is worth it. During the pandemic, it wasn't. Premiums were too high. I'm one of 27 U.S. mint authorized resellers. the mint has been very centered to my existence in the precious metals world, and I'm very thankful for my relationship with them. But for 4 years, I told everyone, don't buy it. 3 years, too expensive. They aren't now. And so if I'm had my choice, yeah, I buy American made, whether it be pre-65 junk silver, Morgan and Peace silver dollars, silver eagles, pre-33 gold numismatics, gold eagles, gold buffaloes. I think you buy American made, and there's just, I think, an added potential value there, maybe even a really big value down the road. So while there is no right or wrong answer, I like that the best. Now, when we talk about silver buffaloes, a lot of people think that's made by the U.S. Mint. It's not. Gold buffaloes are. Silver buffaloes are made by refineries, and I would argue they do that specifically because a lot of people think they're buying U.S. Mint coins. Mm-hmm. They're not. They're generic rounds that are made by a sovereign mint, or excuse me, made by a private mint, those that make like the 100-ounce bars and whatnot. So, yeah, I like, if I had my choice, I'd buy only American made, but it's not in the sand. I mean, it's not like a line in the sand that you have to do that. It's just, that would be my preference. But there are a lot of great coins and great, whether it be South Africa, Australia, Austria, UK, Canada, and a list of others, you're just fine with that too. But for whatever it's worth, yeah, he believed it, and figured I'd let you know that that's what he said.
I appreciate that. I think that's a great story. And, I think a lot of what we decide to end up stacking comes from a story we hear, or it comes from people that we know. I think the reality is it's hard to go wrong with stacking precious metals. And I think a lot of us go through different phases, different products that we like. For me, if I can find bars at a good price, I buy bars at a good price. And eventually I like to convert them into rounds or sovereign coins. I have a lot of Eagles, and I've paid a little bit of a premium for them, but I also wait until the time's right to buy them. I wait until the spread's thin. So there are times when I accumulate more of those than others.
Right. Which makes sense.
Yeah. So, I try to do that, and it's, I move product around and things like that. But I did want to do a shout out to Tiger here. He's left a super chat for us, and also a question for you, Andy. Andy, what about the foreign gold that President Kennedy put into the same category as pre-33? Are you familiar with that?
I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, the only thing that I could think of would be like British sovereigns, Swiss 20 francs, French 20 francs. I think that's probably what he's talking about, because those coins are from that time period. But that isn't technically right if that's what he's talking about, because, executive order up here that talks about pre-33 coins, United States minted. And this is something, if that's what he's talking about, I don't know, he can maybe chime in, but there are a lot of companies that are full of shit that will tell you that the British sovereign that you bought from 1900 is safe from confiscation and should carry a big premium, or the Swiss 20 franc, or the French 20 franc, or, the Angel, or any of these old European coins that typically sell for just a little bit over their melt value. If I'm selling it to you, a lot of companies will tell a half truth and say, well, it's pre-33, it's safe from confiscation. No, it's really not. And so I don't know exactly what President Kennedy did or didn't. That beats news to me. But a lot of people think that the European coins made prior to 1933 would be exempt. They're not. Not even a little bit. In fact, there was even an agreement later on down the road between the industry, ICTA, the Industry Council for Tangible Assets, which is kind of an advocate for the precious metals industry, went to the IRS and said, look, there are coins that aren't pre-33 that truly are collectible. So in I guess you could say it's really not official, but it's what the industry uses, is that the number they used would be 15% premium on sellback to the melt value. And if it's not pre-33, it would be considered collectible in that case. And so those kind of coins, they will never carry that on sellback. I mean, typically you're getting a few dollars over spot or over melt on those older European coins. So if that's what he's talking about, it's a half truth.
Thank you for the clarification on that.
Yeah, there he is. So so confirmed by Lynette Zhang today. I would disagree with Lynette, and I like Lynette, but it is pre-33 US. So those coins, and if people are paying huge premiums for it, call me. I don't charge huge premiums for them at all, but I will tell you that they are not numismatic coins. I would like to talk with Lynette about that, because everything I have ever read in 35 years of doing this, I've been doing it longer than her, is, and I call her a friend. So, I mean, I can say that. I got nothing but respect, but I don't think she's right on that. I think it's pre-33 US. I'd like to chat with her about that.
Well, maybe we'll have to have a showdown one of these days, Andy. Just kidding.
Right on. Well, you know what? I just don't think those coins are numismatic, not even a little bit.
But you do bring up a good point, though, too. I think anytime someone's looking at making a purchase, if there's a pretty good size premium on it, you want to be talking to someone that understands those coins in general, guys. I see people paying stupid money for a mint state 70 coin that's a
lipstick on a pig, man. That's lipstick on a pig. I'll tell you another story. I did, and I'm not going to mention this person's name or the grading service.
Okay.
Because it'll be easy to figure it out if I do. But I gave a speech in Carlsbad, California, at a show. I don't remember what it was, but they asked me, would I share the podium with this gentleman who was one of the co-founders of one of the major grading services. I'll just say it's either PCGS or NGC. I said, sure. I like the guy. I've seen him around. Sure. So he sits down with me. We're in this big auditorium before people come in. And I say, man, I just got to ask you a question. What do you think about this modern mint stuff? So you see over there, those baseball cards I've showed people this before. You can't really see them because of this, but they're all certified, right? Every one of those baseball cards is old. I mean, really old. And so they have to be certified. That's like the old numismatic coins, right? If you buy an old numismatic coin and it's supposed to be uncirculated, it should be certified. Back then, those old baseball cards, some of them from the early 1900s, kids, no one took care of them. And the ones from the 40s and 50s, people put them in their bike spokes. Kids did. They'd play games with them. So to find them in nice condition is hard. Well, the same thing is true with U.S. numismatic coins from the 1850s and 60s and 1870s. Those older coins, and in particular the ones during the Civil War in the late 50s, early 60s, those coins, many of them didn't make it through in anything but horseshit condition. Having them certified gives them authenticity, and they're rare because of their age and because of the conditions of the time and how they made it through. And a lot of them ended up in safe deposit boxes in Europe or whatever. So you have to have them certified. Could be the difference of a huge amount of money. The same thing is true with these old baseball cards, but these new coins, you take a box of gold eagles and a box of silver eagles, 500 coins to each box, you send them into PCGS, they will come back. 90% of them will come back MS69, 10% MS70, something like that. And so MS69 coins are complete and total waste of period of anything. If I'm short on gold eagles, I'll sell, and I have 50 of these MS69s in my warehouse, I will include them in place of the new coins. And people usually, oh, wow, you gave me MS69 first strike. Great. Well, they're not worth anything more. The MS70s are sometimes worth more. I'll give you that. I mean, they are, but it's lipstick on a pig. I use the baseball cards again. Kids now, when they get baseball cards, they take it perfect, put them in a plastic. Don't touch it. Don't use your fingers. Don't touch the corners. Back then, no one did. And so that's the point. So this here's the real truth of it, okay? You got to do a ton of business in precious metals to make any money. You have to. Yep. It's a low margin business, very low margin business. And if you're not doing hundreds of millions of dollars, well, you better then create a story. And that story is then created through certified modern minted coins. I mean, lipstick on a pig, as far as I'm concerned. And as far as any dealer who would be honest with you is concerned. So you're far better off if you think you're buying numismatics to buy pre-33 than to waste your time, money, energy, and effort on buying modern minted certified stuff. Now, I do own quite a bit of the certified modern minted stuff. I know that sounds contradictory. Every year for the last, I don't know, 24 years, I have bought, starting with one, my son, who's my oldest, I would buy him a proof buffalo and eagle, certified proof 69, not mint state, but proof, both the 1 ounce gold eagle and 1 ounce gold buffalo. And actually the buffalo wasn't even around until after he was born. So it started more just eagles back then, but then I started doing an eagle and a buffalo. And now I have 3 kids. My youngest is 17, almost 18. So I own, I buy 3 a year. So it adds up, but it's kind of the icing on the cake, so to speak. I don't buy it as the vanilla ice cream. Maybe it's the hot fudge. And I do it just my way of, thinking of my kids and something that I think is cool. But I know what I'm doing. I understand the premium I'm paying is higher. And I would probably be better off just buying them in the box from the US Mint. You can buy proof coins directly from the usmint.gov, and it comes with a box and paper. I would argue those are worth more than a proof 69 PCGS NGC coin. And they are, if you have it with the box and paper, but it's a pain in the butt. And it's easier for me to get them through my business than to go directly through the US Mint and do it. So I know that is a little bit confusing, but all I'm simply saying to you is this, that if that is the foundation of your collection, you're making a massive mistake. There's nothing wrong with adding some for whatever, for your kids or a gift or whatever, but it shouldn't be something that comprises what you see on your screen here, the maples, underneath our pictures. That's the stuff you want to own, the bullion, the commercial strike, not the proof, not the certified. If you're going to buy something like this, a $20 gold piece, that is a MS63 St. Gaudens. That won't cost you much more than a gold eagle right now. Most of my career, it was way more. In 2008, it would have been $700 to $800 more than gold spot with $1,000 gold price. There are times those coins become wickedly expensive. Now they're cheap. So that is what I would buy if I'm buying collectibles.
I totally agree. Now, just to put it out there, one splurge I did do, and I got it at a great price, was buying a last day of minting of the Type 1 Silver Eagle for 2021. And it's kind of a cool piece to have. I've got one of them. I think I paid, $55 for it.
And that coin, even now, that's a good example too, because even in commercial strike, it's worth more because it was only made for 6 months and then issued in they brought in the new design, the Type 2.
Yep.
So that again, there's nothing wrong with that. But if someone convinced me,
I have one.
Yeah, if someone said, look, I know you got $100,000 to put in your IRA, put it all into those, the commission that person would make would be many times what they would have made if they just sold you bullion. And this is what I'm getting at, is that it's a low margin business. And so there are a lot of people out there, and it's a non-regulated business, right? That's why I left my office in Minneapolis when I moved from Minneapolis to Florida, because it's the only state that's ever regulated what is a non-regulated federally industry. And so we're held to a higher standard. But, this is why there are a lot of companies out there that do this stuff. And, there's a tremendous amount of fraud in the IRA business. And I wish I could be candid about it. I wish I could name the companies. I won't do it. But, if you've ever bought IRAs through precious metals companies, and I'll tell you, it's really weird. Okay, let me tell you another little parable here. I play golf with a dude here who I consider to be a very dear friend, and he lives in my community, and he worked for Stratton Oakmont. That's Jordan Belfort's firm. That's the Wolf of Wall Street. And I'm like, what? And we had these crazy conversations about the stuff I couldn't tell you on the show, that the experiences that he had living in New York at this point, working with these guys. But I said, did you get in trouble? He said, no, I figured out what was going on and I bailed. And luckily I did. He said, but it's interesting. A lot of the guys that I knew got in trouble even the ones who left Stratton Oakmont and opened up their own shops, they all did the same stuff, and they all got in trouble, went to jail. So if you look at this IRA industry, all these idiots sell the same shit. Every single one of them, they're destroying people's lives. And I wish I could tell you who they are. I would like to. I'd like to debate every one of their CEOs. You don't see any owners of any of these companies putting their face out there and their name and their reputation. And, you know, for everyone to see, I do. I got nothing to hide. I have 8 of these today, 8 podcasts, 18 this week. I mean, it's like I do this because I love it. I feel it's I'm trying my best to help as many people as I can. And yeah, I build my business, but I try to do it in a noble way. These companies are destroying people, and they all do the same thing. Quarter-ounce gold coins between 800 and 1,200 an ounce. 1 to 1.5 to 2, 1.5 or 2 ounce silver coins between 60 and 120. Every single one of them are screwing people. If you got screwed to that, and if you're with any of these 6 or 7 companies, that's what you own, guaranteed. And the funny thing is, you look at the quarter-ounce coins, and you will look around on every website around, you won't find them. I mean, I know the mints they come from, but it'll be like some strange coin I've never heard of, like the spotted ostrich quarter-ounce coin that's limited edition. It's going to make you rich, and they're massive premiums, and they're screwing people. I mean, to the point where I don't know how these people go to sleep at night. I don't know how these people look their parents in the face, because these are all people who have IRAs, elderly people or older people who've worked their ass off their whole life, and they're destroying them. Reach out to us, info@Miles Franklin. Tell us, we can help you get whole, and we will tell you what to do and what to say. If I really didn't care about decorum, I would mention the names. But I just told you all enough to where if you are one of these people who got in trouble, typically they have flashy spokespeople speaking for them, and they all sell the same shit. Every single one of them. I don't care which company it is. So it's just like they all learned it from Jordan Belfort. It's like one of these companies was the puppet master, and they all learned from him, and they all went and started their own company. And there's about 8 of them. And they're real, honest to God, I've never seen anything like it. I'm talking 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% commissions. We make 2 if we're lucky. So anyways, for what it's worth, reach out to us if you've been affected by that.
Definitely do that, guys, for sure. I've enjoyed every conversation I've had with Andy, as well as any of his team when I call in. And they're always happy to help. I mean, Andy, I've shared Andy's number with a few people, and he gets back to them really fast. And, you know, that doesn't happen very often, that you get the person at the top to take time out.
Someone says in there that I have a place in the Trump cabinet. I will tell you that I did a couple interviews with Kash Patel, and Kash is now the head of the CIA. So, hey, I got friends in high places. I've done them with General Flynn, and I'm sure there'll be something in there for him too. But Kash Patel might be the smartest son of a gun I've ever met in my entire life, and really intense. He looks right through you. And he's now the head of the CIA. So, you know, hopefully I don't get in trouble and have to call Kash for help. Please, Kash, bail me out, man. But I would love to, you know, to do something like that, to a higher calling, right?
That would be awesome.
To work for your country. But that hasn't happened yet. But you know what? More than anything, I do care. I care about the people I talk to. I care about the people that are listening to me and trusting me. If I didn't, I wouldn't put myself out the way that I do. I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years, and since I was 19, I don't need to tarnish my family's name. I try my best to not be the smartest guy in the room, but to be authentic and tell it like it is. And I'm not always right, but I will tell you, you'll never find anyone who believes his own shit the way that I do. I mean, I am very much invested in what I talk about, and I believe in it to my soul. And what we see in this pull down in the price shouldn't bum anyone out. It really shouldn't. And I think it will only materialize probably in a much, much more powerful move up. But there still may be room to the downside to flush out all of this managed money, and to flush out the allow these commercial banks who I've been saying for weeks, it's an existential threat to these banks. The huge amount of money they're losing on these short positions that have been exploited by the BRICS countries standing for delivery. This is their way to kind of get out from under that. And if you see the managed money go short, buckle up. It'll take off in a way that I think will surprise people, get right back to where it was.
It was nearly 1 billion ounces of silver alone. That's insane. So, it was a lot.
Yeah, and that's the point. That has a little bit of effect on the price.
So, folks, I think what we're going to see here is, the story Andy gave was pretty interesting because in a lot of ways, it seems like there is something that's kind of man-made to create some chaos in the system out there, maybe do a reset.
And blame it on the man who everyone thinks is the savior.
Exactly.
And if the deep state is that powerful and they really hate him that much, well, there's one way to get the Republican Party on the sidelines for a very long time, and that would be to blow that up and blame him for everything. Now, I hope I know nothing. I hope I'm wrong. That's my biggest concern. And look, who knows? I doubt it will happen, but there is a fine line between conspiracy and reality, and pessimism and realism. I don't know. I just have this feeling that that's something that, that would be something in their back pocket if that's indeed what their aspirations were. And after all the crazy shit we've seen over the last few years, nothing should surprise us anymore.
Yeah. So for that, I say get prepared, guys. Make sure you've got your wealth insurance with your gold. Make sure you've got silver to barter with if we ever get to that point. Plus, silver is so undervalued. I would say it's the most undervalued commodity and asset that's out there today. So there's so much potential upside. But with both of these things, I can't tell you if it's tomorrow they're going to take off or if it's going to be in a couple of years from now. But
I'd also have a few $1,000 or more, depending upon your situation, in small bills, 5s, 10s, and 20s. You see a bank collapse, look at all the branches that are gone. And if the ATMs aren't working or whatever, you don't want to start walking around and trading immediately with gold and silver. Have some cash, have the ability to transact. They talk about how dollar bills are worth more than $1 in North Carolina after the hurricane up there and the flooding. It's not a bad idea to have some small bills and some junk silver and stuff in on hand, and hope you don't need to use it.
I totally agree. And the last thing I'll add to that is food and water, so that you don't have to go out into the chaos if there's runs on the stores and stuff. So Andy, maybe one last time, if you could tell us how we can get in touch with you. I want to thank you for coming on tonight.
Dude, I love coming on. You're awesome, man. And you should have that party in person so we can celebrate properly. info@milesfranklin.com. Any questions you've heard here, if you've been affected by one of these companies, you want the price list, no obligation, you have questions on precious metals IRAs, anything, send it. info@milesfranklin. Check your spam if you don't get it within a day. Put your phone number down if you want to be contacted. And of course, you can go to our website. We have a new version of our website, which will be much more grand. It's done, basically. We're just proofing it right now. That'll be out in the next few days, to week to 10 days. Now, I made a big mistake of saying that a few years ago when we rolled out this latest version, and I ended up, it was the dumbest thing I ever did. And we ended up having to re-scrap the whole thing and start over. But this one is basically done, so there'll be a new, fresh website. You can purchase small amounts on it, but it would behoove you to request our price sheet and talk to one of our brokers with no obligation, who are all my oldest buddies, almost every one of them, to childhood. Some are newer, but I only work with my friends, which is unusual, but it's been the best experience ever. So make sure you mention that they came from you in the subject line, and we look forward to helping as many people as we can.
That's awesome. So yeah, just let them know that Stacking Surfer sent you guys. And then we'll have Andy on again next week. It'll either be Wednesday or Thursday. We're just trying to iron out which day it's going to be for sure. If you've got any question, guys, I know a lot of them came through. We weren't able to get to all of them yet. So go ahead and email me, stackingsurfer@gmail.com. You can email me those ahead of time. That might help us form the show. We'll have a better chance of getting those questions answered for you guys.
And I am doing a Q&A tonight on our Little by Little, Kevin and I, at 8:30 Eastern. If people are dying to get them answered today, send them in, and we'll try to address them. But I always appreciate you and coming on your show, and look forward to doing it again real soon. And yeah, man, you take care, and everyone else out there.
That's been great. Thank you, Andy. Everybody else hang tight. We'll do some giveaways here and a couple announcements. So thank you, Andy.
You got it, bro. Stay well.
Yep. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. So that was awesome. I love having Andy on. You know, for those of you that are watching on a regular basis, some of the information you're going to hear over and over. But one thing just to help you guys understand, 80% of the people that watch this video will be brand new to the channel. They don't subscribe to it. It's most likely the first time they've even heard anything from the channel. Sometimes it's the first time they've even heard from Andy. So we're going to do a giveaway right now. Let's see what we get up to. I think we got up to 139. So I'm going to do a gold back giveaway right here. I'll tell you guys how to qualify for that in a minute. The other thing I'd love to hear from you guys is I'm looking to put together a really fun 10,000 subscriber party. So I want to thank all of you guys for the support. And I'm looking to do that here in person in California. Maybe we could do it somewhere else, but I'm looking at California right now. But I'd love to hear from you guys either in the comments or in an email to me if it's something you would have. You know, if you're here in Southern California and you'd be able to make it, send me an email, stackingsurfer@gmail.com. In the title, just put 10K party. I'd love to find out if there's enough people here locally that would like to join. We'll do a fun local event here and have a good party. I also wanted to do a quick shout out to Born Hunting. Thank you very much for the super chat. And then we had quite a few from Tiger too, all around the same subject there. I know, Tiger, you brought this one up here. That's something maybe, you know, reach out to me personally. I can talk to you a little bit more about that. You know, we have opportunities, guys, to do a lot of different kinds of investing that's out there. For me personally, when I look at it, gold is what I use for wealth insurance. If you don't have any wealth insurance, I think you need to start with silver, in my opinion, versus getting into the gold side. It's more affordable and there's more potential upside to it. As always, none of this is financial advice. You need to sit down with your financial planner. And sometimes that can be difficult. You may have them watch some of these shows to help them be more familiar with gold and silver. A lot of them only make money off of stocks or bonds, and therefore that's what they sell and that's what they advise on. If you can get a planner, a financial planner, oftentimes they'll go more broad with you guys too. And those are a little bit harder to find. And it can be even more difficult to find a financial planner that likes to have a large percentage of the portfolio in gold. You know, personally, I look at anywhere from 3 to 20% in precious metals, depending on what your risk tolerance is, how much wealth you have, how risky your other kinds of investments are, and your age. All those things are factors to look at. But for me, I have gold in my wealth insurance. I have silver for speculation as well as for SHTF. And like Andy said today, I like to have small bills as well as some larger bills, cash. And then I like to have a lot of food and water. If things get crazy, I don't want to have to go out to the store. I don't want to have to wait for FEMA to show up. I don't want to have to wait for the Red Cross to show up. I want to be able to take care of myself. So those are those things. This is, you need dude protection. Don't know what that is. Let's see. I don't see what you guys are saying in there. But anyway, I think you do need to have, I do think you need to have some security so that you guys are able to do that. As far as cryptos go, I do hold cryptos. I'm not an anti-crypto guy. I'm in technology. I'm a technology guy. I definitely don't know how long they're going to be around. There are some more security risks to them. It's very easy to send a crypto to a new wallet and lose all of it because you put the wrong digit in. They can be tricky to maneuver with, and they're highly volatile. So, you know, be careful if you're dabbling in cryptos. Make sure you get with someone that really knows what they're doing, and make sure you start off with just a little bit of money and you understand what you're getting yourself into. I mean, I've got many friends that bought it years ago and they're barely in the positive now, and they've had to wait a very long time. And most people tend to sell at the wrong times and they buy at the wrong times. So, you know, with any of this, don't get caught in FOMO. I do think we've got a good time ahead of us here for buying and buying gold and silver. And I do think it's probably going to go down a little bit below 30 on silver, and I do think you're going to see us probably test $2,500 for gold. At least that's what the charts are showing right now. That's not to say don't buy right now. I can't guarantee it's going to go down there. And right now we do see a decent correction. So, you know, I like the dollar cost average when I buy. I also like the dollar cost average when I sell. So let's go ahead and get this giveaway going for you guys. Let's see. I don't know if this is going to be the right one. Let me refresh this. Give me just a second here, guys. All right, we're going to give this a try. Let me see if it'll load into the right one. Okay, put this in the chat, and we're going to see if this is working. Sometimes the software doesn't update right. So this is the hashtag GOLD for the giveaway. And we're sitting with 209 people in here with 150 likes. If you can get it up to 200 likes, we'll do some more giveaways too. All right, let me see if these are starting to come in or not. Okay, it looks like it's loading. All righty, let me share the screen so you guys can see it live. The other thing I'd love to hear from you guys is what would you like to do for a, you know, for a party? So for the 10K subscriber party, we can do a lot of different things. We can do an auction. We could do a charity auction. We could just have a fun party. I'm thinking about doing a big party at the beach. We could also do a party at a movie theater out here. There's a lot of different things we can do. It just depends on how many people could be in person versus how many people are virtual. But either way we do it, I want to have gauze for those that are in person and those are virtual. This will be a big party. And then my next big party is going to be when we hit 50,000 subscribers and then 100,000 subscribers, all the way up to past 1 million. That's the plan, is to grow this channel massively. So I've got a lot of plans for us in the future. I just need a little bit more time to get it organized and get caught up with us. Okay, so we're at 39 right now. All right, we're at 159, so I don't think we're going to make it to 200, but we can do, we'll go ahead and do 2 of these for today, okay? All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and start spinning this. Yeah, if we can get Nick to come out to the party, that would be exciting. We'll have to see if we can get her out here. She's never been to California, and she seems to be very scared of California for some reason. Even Boston, I've tried to meet up with her at Tim's a couple times. So that's kind of a bummer, but it would be great. All right, I think we've hit 42. We're going to go ahead and spin this thing. Give me just a second here. And we're going to do our first draw. Who is it going to be? Beto 2024, congratulations. Just send me an email, and in the subject put GA winner, and then give me your name and your address, and we'll get that sent out to you. I think those for the last couple live streams as well as for this one, I'll get those out this week. It's been a little crazy to get caught up on that. All right, we're going to run it one more time. There we go. I don't know why I'm in there. I don't want to be in there. Spencer J. Congratulations, man. So these are cool. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these gold backs or not, but they are really cool. The designs on them are really fun. And it is a piece of gold. So it's a 1/1000th of a troy ounce of gold. And you could use these for bartering. You'd probably have to explain to someone what they are, but it does tell you what it is down at the bottom. Yes, they carry a pretty good premium, so I would not be stacking these from the standpoint of trying to get weight in gold. But I think they're really good for bug out bags. I think they're good to put in your car. If you've got a wallet, you can also put these in your wallet too, just for emergency. So I think they're fun. And if you happen to live in one of the 6 states where they use them as currency, It's not technically US currency, but they use them for currency, so to speak. I think it could be really fun to use them. I've done it a few times up in Utah when I've been there, which is pretty fun. Is Janky here? It's rigged. The thing's not rigged, I promise. It's not rigged. I know Tiger will tell you otherwise. He's mad that he didn't win on this one, I think. So the other thing I'd love to do too for you guys, for the 10,000 party, I do want to get as much of the community to participate. So if you've got a channel and you want to be able to come up, what I'm asking for is a God donation. It's not to me. It's just to the people that are going to be watching the video that day or the live stream. You know, let's do a GAW celebration where you guys bring a GAW to the table. We'll put you up and show off your channel for a little bit, get a few minutes for you to chat. I want it to be a fun experience for everybody, and you know, to help grow the community. That's what this all comes down to. I mean, honestly, without a community, these channels don't do a whole lot. And you got to build your community, guys, especially if we ever get to a bartering situation. Your neighbors aren't going to know what to do with a silver dime. You're going to have to educate them. So that's how it goes. I know you guys, it's all rigged. I get it. So make sure you do this if you won, just to make sure I get that. Let's see if I had any other questions for you guys. Oh, the other thing, I do have an eBay store. If you ever see anything on eBay that you like, send me a personal email. We can do things offline that'll be a little less expensive than what's on eBay. And I am having a website being designed too, so that'll be fun. There's going to be some great things we can do with that, as well as a newsletter that's going to be coming. So lots of great things that we'll be getting set up starting for next year. And everybody, thank you for coming out. And until next time, peace out and have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.